Good day for another weekly Q&A session, and if you're wondering what this is, it is a similar setup to the weekly live streams, which we actually haven't been doing recently because, well, obvious reasons. But instead of course, being live, it is pre-recorded and we'll be fielding questions from the YouTube member section and then also the Discord community as well. By the way, you can actually participate for 100% free in the Discord link in the description below. It'll bring you over to this page here, or you need to find your way over to this page here, I should say, with that weekly Q&A section. Just find the most recent week, and if you have such questions, you can post them there. Can't promise I have an answer for everything, but I'll try. And I'll also let you know if I just don't fucking know as well. Anyways, yes, so starting off with Bitcoin here, just very quick analysis. We do see that Bitcoin is still working on what would effectively be a rising wedge here on the 5-day time frame as defined by the price action pivots indicators, extending these dotted trend lines here. And Bitcoin is more or less dancing around the edge of that on the bottom. Do you want to call it boundary? Do you want to call it support? Whatever you want to call it. That would effectively be coming in, pretty much where Bitcoin's at right now, about 105, let's say. Now, this 5-day period just started, so this will not resolve until like Wednesday or Thursday, whatever it is. Yeah, Thursday. But if Bitcoin is below that number by the end of Thursday, then I would effectively look at this as resolved, and there would be a nice little measured move to be made. Let's see what it would, maybe not so nice, but that actually would be pointed significantly lower. I do think that there would definitely be stops along the way, very likely at low 100s, probably even a real low attempt at 100. But hey, if that one does fail, then perhaps that full move does occur. And we do kind of have the right conditions here for a pullback to occur, with the 5-day stochastic oscillator continuing to the downside, showing a momentum is turning again south. And that one remains to the downside as long as Bitcoin's closing 5 days below 110,000 US dollars. That is going to very likely be followed by the weekly, which will close later tonight. This one will officially cross the downside if Bitcoin is still below 106,550 by the end of the day today. So do keep that in mind. What else do we have to be mindful of here? 3-day time frame, obviously continuing down below 108,700. 2-day time frame is flippy floppy here, but currently positioned around 103,500, and the daily time frame is positioned down below 110 as well. So the 2-day time frame is kind of the odd man out there. And if I had to call it here, it does look to me like Bitcoin will at least try lower, but does it actually break lower? That's the real question. I don't think that it would be wise to effectively call a break until we get the next 5-day closure. So that's just naturally going to take some time. Until then, does Bitcoin explore this lower range here and then bounce? Probably, yeah. I think that we're kind of stuck within one of those periods where it gets really fucking boring, man. Super fucking boring, despite Bitcoin more or less being at all-time highs. But, it can play out this region for a long time, doing something like this, blah, 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 millions of bounces, and then finally, turns back on over. Again, doesn't make me full on bearish or anything like this. I do think that ultimately it provides a major opportunity, but it is within the cards there. So I do think that it's wise to be talking about it on YouTube. But what would be a major condition that would effectively make me say, hey, Bitcoin's actually bullish, not going any lower than what it's already seen, and probably get ready for new all-time highs? Well, I need to see Bitcoin back down below the breakdown fake out move right here, which was the high of Thursday at 108,450. If Bitcoin can do that, especially closing a 4-hour dildo back above there, or really a daily, I should say, then this thing very likely runs back towards the highs, probably just makes new highs from there, and it's just nice Lambos and all moon talk from there. Except people don't really talk about Lambos anymore for whatever reason. Oh, speaking of, I should have mentioned we actually still have our sale going on for 20% off of any one of the programs or services in the Teachable link in the description below. Just had to bring it up right here. You can also get 7 days free for all of the major offerings like the Quant Prime, like the Quantum Wave Bands, like the Caretaker's Full Indicator Suite, and that promo runs until actually tomorrow. Tomorrow is when our summer sale does end. So again, the code here is summer20. I'll just bring it up on the screen really, really quickly, and then we'll get into the actual questions of the day. But summer in all capitals and the number 20 ends tomorrow at the end of Monday. All right, cool. Now that we've gotten through that, let's jump into the YouTube member section. So did I post a new one? Yes, I did post a new one. So let's get into the old one here. And we have Charles Nuntzman 304. He says, last week someone asked how to identify higher highs, lower lows, lower highs, and etc. The price action pivots have a built-in feature to show recent price labels. I think that is exactly what they are looking for. And thanks, man. Yeah, you are indeed right. And I probably should have just said that, although, sometimes you want to keep the shilling to a minimum. But yeah, indeed. I mean, this indicator right here can definitely do that. If you tick this setting option, show recent pivot levels, it will label them for you. It will show, if we can get it to load, just one moment, it's calculating in the background. Let's see, there we go. Yeah, it gives you all of the labels for the most relevant highs and lows in the past. This one's going back to May 12th on the daily time frame. So yeah, if you want like a kind of a foolproof way to do it, this would be it. Of course, this is algorithmically defined, so it will get things wrong every once in a while, of course, but just looking at the board right here, it would have gotten everything right precisely as I would have defined it myself. So yeah, price action pivots, again, earning its stripes as the newest kid on the block for our indicator offerings. And yeah, even that one you can try out for 7 days free. All right, cool. Cool. Yes. All right. Let me take that off right now. It does kind of get in the way of the charts. But yeah, super relevant for, people who are especially learning or just want to have it, shoved right in front of your face. Anyways, Cousin Burley's next. She says, "Hey, Crown, hope this finds you healing and on the mend." Actually, yes. Thank you very much. It's getting much better now. Would you demo how you draw implied targets on broad need channels? Broad need channels or any channels for that matter, or really most patterns, almost every pattern. You can draw the implied move by effectively measuring the some people refer to as rate of change, or just the difference between the sort of like middle portion of that pattern. So for example, this one right here being a rising wedge would be something, well, like I just showed right here. I'm just kind of taking the width of this for the most, like egregious of these wicks, and then applying that to the potential breakdown region. So you can't actually apply it until you get confirmation of the breakdown. And even then, patterns are prone to fail, obviously, but if you do want to play it by the book, that would be how to do it. All right, cool. Moving on, we got Arms Private. He says BMB in the short and long term. Nice. All right, we got some actual coin requests here. Let's go to BMB. This one, again, has been one of the better actors. 5-day time frame, kind of looking similar to Bitcoin in that I do think that it's ready to continue on with this overall consolidation right here. We have this marked off as just one mega massive channel that has been oscillating between about 670 to the upside versus 550 to the downside. You just rejected the top side of the channel. So, from there, I almost always look for things to come down to the middle of the channel. It's probably a little bit closer to 620. It got very close there actually 2 weeks ago, or no, this was last Thursday. But I do think that this one probably does come back down again. Similar setup over here on the 5-day stochastic oscillator, and I think the weekly is going to follow through as well, or is close to falling through. No, it's actually not. 615 is the number to beat for today, that is. Anyways, my point is that in the short term, consolidation continues. Probably try some downside from here. If it does break below 625 and actually close a daily below there, I would extend downside targets all the way to 590 or so. Again, not going to happen all in one massive green dildo, or red dildo in this case. Long term, still among the better charts in cryptocurrency land, but as you can see, monthly stochastic momentum to the downside always makes me skeptical towards mega continuation of a general uptrend. But does this one spend a few months consolidating sideways and then try another upside move? Well, I guess if Bitcoin's going to do that, then probably this one will as well, and probably have, pretty good response compared to most things. But in the short term, corrective, sideways and down, bounces along the way, obviously. And yeah. All right, nice. Let's move on to It's Asti. She says NPPPTF. Boom. Got it. All right. Neptune Digital Assets Corporation trades OTC. Okay. And what exactly was the question here? You missed me last week. Sorry. I apologize about that. Yeah, I'm really prone to making dumb errors like that. That's why I need Elsa, but I don't actually have her for these. All right. As far as Neptune Digital Assets, no time frame given, but I'm guessing you probably want higher term time frames with something like this. Again, overall good. You are getting a continuation of your, of your breakout and uptrend. In the short term, medium term, still consolidating, after a pretty emphatic breakout. If I had to call it right now, I do think that it'll spend most of June, maybe even July, correcting, maybe comes back down to like 91 cents or so. But as long as this thing's above about 70, I would treat this one as still in a position of power to try to then move to the upside more long term. Again, that can take like many, many months. Looking at the quarterly right here, I mean, shit, like after retesting your prior all-time high, it is going to take some time to work that off. And in the short term, I suspect that it probably does come down a little bit further as well. You got the daily 200 simple and also this price action pivot, extended trend line here, intersecting around about 90 cents. So does it get back down around there? Probably yes. Does it bounce there as well? Probably yes. Does that bounce bring you back above 155, which would be my sort of continuation confirmation area? That I don't know. I think this one probably takes a lot more time, to be honest. Anyways, base 4267 says PG stock weekly monthly. PG stock. Why does this one sound familiar? I'm thinking of PG&E, which was the energy supplier for California, I think. Anyways, this thing wants to come down, man. Nice weekly downtrend. It's not like super concerning, This is not like erratic behavior or anything like this, but it is, a downtrend. So do have to be favoring the downside, and the weekly moving average is about to switch into a silver cross to the downside. So I'd probably be looking for this one to pop back down towards the last major price action pivot here, 156, 157 region, also in alignment with that most recent price action pivot extended trend line here too. So, just an area of interest. If it does get down around there, weekly 200 simple, also going to be coming in around that region. Very, very likely at least to bounce attempt. This thing, very long term, buying around that white moving average, which is the 200 simple, has never been like a bad idea. Yes, it can stay down below there for some time. Absolutely, no doubt about that. But if you are long-term minded, I mean, that's kind of an investment area, I guess. But yeah, it could come down, it could weight down a little bit lower. Let's call it like 150. That's fine. Just long-term, as long as it's, let's say, above 140, I'd treat this one as, still among some of the best charts that we'll probably see today. All right, we got Crypto Rect RD. He is looking at a bunch of shit coins. Oh God. Let's start this one with Fart Derp. Okay, Fart Derp here. We'll start off with the 5-day time frame. It's interesting that the price action pivots are kind of drawing it off like this. It does seem to be working with that last rejection on the prior closing 5-day from yesterday. I do think that this one comes back down and actually fills at the bottom end of this consolidation, maybe back down to like 105 to, $1 even, something like this, but very likely going to bounce there again. I don't think it's going to like break down on this move. But yeah, you do have a downtrend you do have a downtrend in place. You had high, low, higher low, higher high, lower low, lower high, lower low, lower high compared to this high. Sorry, this one's not really a lower high, at least in the way that I define things. And now coming back down again, I think it's probably going to test around this low. Maybe not exactly all the way down towards it, but then again, I mean, it is probably super, super fucking volatile. Nothing bullish about this in terms of like breaking out to potentially new highs as long as you're below Wednesday's high. That is the major pivot to be aware of going onwards and forwards from here, because it's, very much the most obvious rejection on the board. But yeah, anyways, back into it. You're looking at useless coin. I feel like you could call most of them a useless coin, to be honest. But honestly, one of the better charts I've seen, certainly for today. It's also very, very new, but that's actually a good thing during the good portion of the market cycle, which I think that this still probably is. Can it correct down to like 5.25 cents? Sure, but I'd be looking for bounces there and perhaps another try to the upside after that. Really, only problems if you start to come back down and close below there on a higher term time frame. At that point, open up the doors for an extended correction down to like 4 cents, maybe even lower, maybe even the party's over if that were to happen. But looking at the monthly, I think that this one very likely does just have a short-term correction and then tries another upside move for useless coin, good name. And then SPX 6900. This one, I think I have been wrong on. Let's see. Yeah, this one popped back up towards its prior all-time high. And I was saying that is unlikely to happen. I was looking for this one to get rejected, probably closer to about 110. Yeah, 110-ish region. In this case, it did more or less retest the all-time high. Very likely going to pull back from there. I actually still am very much biased towards this one coming down, to be honest with you. I don't think it's going to continue to make like massively new all-time highs. But this was a pretty impressive move, no doubt about that. In the short term, does it pop back down to like 1.25 and try for a bounce there? I imagine yes. Yes, you also do have a rising channel here as well. So I guess we could make a measured move on this one if it were to break, which it has not broken just yet. But if it were to break with a daily closure below about, 1.25, depending upon where you kind of approach it from, then, that could initiate targets down to 90 to 95 cents region. At that point, I think it'd be safe to say that this thing's done. But for now, do have to give it some respect because it did have one of the best moves out of certainly most of the shitcoins that we've seen over the past couple weeks. So fair enough, definitely wrong on that one. All right, nice. Let's get into the Discord now, the Derp cord. Let's see what we got going on here. Probably should have gotten more water before hitting the record button, but it's okay. Okay. Actually, I'm going to call over Elsa when it's low and get her to fill it up. All right, we have Hamia first. He says, GM, sir, hope the surgery is all good. I think so. I think my face is starting to look a little bit more normal now. What price targets do you have for Ethereum from July through to September? Sir, I don't think you understand how price targets work. There's not a crystal ball like where you can just say, it's going to be this at this date. Anyone who's telling you that is fucking pulling one over you on you in some way. There's no way to do that, man. There's absolutely no way to do that. There are levels by levels. There are probabilities. There are these sort of things. Absolutely, yes. But to just say, well, bro, it's definitely going to be at 3,400 by that date, like you can't be done. And when you do, if you can do it, it is certainly luck and not as much skill. But yeah, if you're looking at Ethereum through July through September, I mean, to me, that means you're looking at probably a weekly. I think you still have to kind of treat Ethereum as overall okay, as long as you're above last week's low at 23.85. But you're caught between, a rock and a hard place here, 2,900 to the upside versus last week's low. If you can trade above last week's high, then I think that this thing, I don't know if it happens by September, who the fuck knows that timing, but I think you're in for a move somewhere between 3,400 to probably 4,000, probably find its way around there. If it does lose last week's low, then I mean, probably back down to 2,000. Again, I don't know the time frame of that. It can take multiple months. It could happen in one day. Who the hell knows? No way to answer that accurately. Just be aware of where those major pivots are, because until then, nothing's really changing here. Overall, I am biased towards this one breaking to the upside, especially as long as the daily is still holding it up here. But yeah, very characteristic for Ethereum to fail its first attempt at a breakout. All right, Mr. Rect 101 says, GM Crown and Elsa, hope you recovered. Getting there, but thank you very much, man. Can you look at Tesla? Sure. Tesla, yeah, let's put it up here. Whoops, TSLA. All right. Overall, I like it. The question is, where is that next low, and did it actually just happen this week? This one's actually quite hard for me because of the way that Tesla moves. Like, it's just so volatile. I could easily see this thing coming back down to like 280 before this is resolved here. But if you're looking at the price action pivots, this would be a descending broadening wedge, which actually does have a higher probability to break out to the upside than the downside. But is it going to break out from here? I actually highly doubt it. I actually do think it's probably more likely to make one more swing lower. Definitely not, I shouldn't say definitely, but very unlikely to be lower than the April lows, but anywhere down around here. And I wouldn't be declaring any sort of breakouts towards, probably 400 plus, honestly, until it's closing daily deltas below 335. I'd just say, look, this thing's corrective until that threshold is met. Weekly, I mean, maybe you could make the argument that a higher low is being put in here, but I wouldn't be a buyer of that argument just yet. Quarterly still looks fine to me. I still think that this one is overall bullish, so it's really just a game of finding that next higher low. Anyways, We have Myth Reindeer. He says, how's your scalp? It's getting better, sir, but my neck is super fucking tight right now. My face is like still quite puffy from all of the drugs and everything. But yeah, man, like they cut open, in case you didn't know, what they do is they cut open like a horizontal strip out of your scalp in the back, obviously. And then they stitch it up so it gets super, super tight. And it feels like your head's being pulled up like this all the time. It's really fucking annoying, actually. I have a couple strategies with the PMARP as one of the entry conditions, along with BBWP and EMAs and so on. Sometimes it gets the entry too early and then drops more. But if I put the parameter lower, I miss out on some good trades and P&L goes down. This is the age-old question of, do I want a higher hit rate with better entries, or do I want a higher profitability? There's no right or wrong answer. I think most people are probably in it for the profits. So, yes, I guess that would make more sense. Logically, that probably makes more sense as well. But some people are also more risk averse, and some people just don't like seeing bigger losses. And yeah, I mean, if you do get better entries or put the entry conditions more stringent, then, you probably avoid. You probably have a better chance of avoiding some, dramatic events, should they happen, which every once in a while they certainly do. What could be some good alternatives that I can replace? I mean, PMARP is, first off, not a momentum oscillator. It's a statistics indicator, actually. It's measuring the distance between the price and whatever moving average you're looking at, and then ranking that into a percentile format. But what I have, okay, so for these, a lot of the time, it's actually BBWP that's a culprit, or EMAs. Well, no, EMAs in this case probably fine. BBWP is, I think, we're going to have the biggest bang for buck. I would actually try adjusting the look back on BBWP if you're using the default or something, super high. Try something, if you're using something relatively low, try something higher if you're not already. And also try vice versa as well. You never know. I mean, shit, these things can get kind of crazy. Maybe you put on a slope condition for the BBWP instead, or maybe you want to see the BBWP have some sort of a relationship with the moving average, like it has to be above or below the moving average. Maybe you play around with the settings of the moving average. These things are where I think you're going to have the best bang for buck. But yeah, I mean, this isn't necessarily a problem. This is just the dichotomy that you have to manage, as always, as a trader. It's like, what do you want to optimize for? Once you know what you want to optimize for, then the answer becomes very, very obvious. But I'd say this is common, and it's to be expected, to be honest. All right. Tristram says, yo, good to be back. I am glad to be back as well. Hopefully you are too. Few weeks ago at a Q&A, you said something that resonated well with me. There is a thin line between trading and gambling. Do you think that long-term trending strategies like 5-day 5 EMA are less prone to overtrading, and it's easier to stick to them? Well, it's naturally less prone to overtrading because you're just not going to get entries that often, of course. I mean, so yeah, absolutely. If you actually can follow it, but that's, the big if, right? It's always easy in hindsight. You're like, oh shit, I could have bought the last like fucking $20,000 move. Super easy. No, in the moment, you're probably glued to your fucking screen, looking at every little price tick on the 15-minute chart, freaking out when it goes against you, and thinking about Lambos when it goes for you. Like this. That is why we have our automation tools. Quick shill on that one. Quant Prime, perfect for that. I would say, yeah. Also, would you employ on top of that another 4 to 12 hour training strategy, provided that your risk management allows two positions to open in the same direction? Your risk management is not going to allow for that, to be honest, unless you have separate accounts. It's not going to allow for that because you don't know what the fuck's going to happen. And adding more positions on the same thing, like on the same thing in the same direction, especially. I mean, also if they're in the opposite direction, like that's it, you're going to run into issues there for sure. Like you're going to start another strategy on the same fucking thing while you're running another strategy. Well, now you have no strategy because those two strategies are going to contradict each other at some point. So I'd say if you're going to do that, you could do that, but you need to make like a sub account or find a different pair to trade. Yeah. All right. Pesto. Oh my God, Pesto, I almost missed you, man. Hey, Crown, what are your most used steps to optimize a strategy with the skeleton key? Okay, yeah, man. Really good question. So what I do with a skeleton key for the most part is like when it comes to optimization, what I first do is really simple. I have sort of like a like order of operations here, and I always start off with using the weekday filter because this is it's just like the most simple thing that you can start off with that you're going to instantly find out, okay, is there any day here that is just fucking my results up? And so I just go one by one. So put it on, do one, take off Monday, see if it improves. If it disimproves, then go on to the next one Tuesday. And that's always gonna be the first one that I start with. From there, do you want to play with the time zone? I actually don't really like playing with the time zone personally, because I feel like you get into a little bit more overfitting sort of conditions. But from there, for the session trading times, that can be useful if you're focusing on certain strategies, but I think most people probably just skip that over, to be honest. But that would be the next one, if that makes sense. From there, a lot of the time what I'll do is I will actually not go to a trend filter yet. I will go to max stop loss and max take profit, because my strategies, I really, really like to have, these in place that's in some way. So I'll start to play around with numbers there. But before that, what I do is I export the CSV of all of the trades that you get from the skeleton key in the backtester here. And I export that into a Google Sheet thing, and then you can go through. I show this, by the way, in the program in Teachable. I think it's like under the advanced section for sure, and I show exactly how to do this. And there are a few metrics that are included in there that you don't really see in the strategy tester here, that you can get for drawdown and whatnot, and that makes it super easy to kind of start off with potential stop loss by percentage regions. So what I like to do is I like to calculate the average of the drawdown, but only for winning trades. And then I calculate the standard deviation from that, and then I maybe go like 2 or perhaps even 3 standard deviations out from the mean, and I'll start my stop loss calculations around there. I'll do the same thing for take profit as well, and then I'll even sometimes do it for the losing side as well, just to see how far down is it, because if there's a difference between the drawdown that you expect for a winning trade versus a significant difference between the drawdown for a winning trade that you expect on average versus a losing trade, well, naturally you want to incorporate as many of the winning trades as possible while getting rid of a significant amount of the losing trades. So usually that interaction happens somewhere around the second or third standard deviation from the average of the winning trades. That's where it starts to kind of correlate to the losing trades, or more so like they're spilling in there. But you won't know until you go through the data. So that's where I like to start things off. And as always, man, I think people massively overestimate how crazy sophisticated strategies need to get in order to be successful. Some of my best ones are really fucking simple, honestly. Especially the more that I do this. Yes, you can make super, super aggressively complicated ones as well. And there is a time and place for that, and I do have them. But I find that when push comes to shove, I actually prefer the simple ones. Maybe it's just me. Anyways, Vlad the Impaler says, "Good morning, Crown and Elsa. What's up, man? On one of the previous streams, someone requested an analysis of syrup. You found the chart interesting and saved it for yourself. My question is, to you is, when you come across an asset that you feel has potential, do I have potential? Specifically a shitcoin. So the time frame to make money on it is much shorter than a real stock or even Bitcoin, especially now that we're at most likely the last stage of this bull market. So pure speculation on some bullshit. What is your strategy if you decide to acquire an esteemed piece?" I usually don't go through with it after thinking about it, to be honest, man. I really don't. It's just I'll look at it. I'll look at the chart very briefly on a stream, and I'm like, oh shit, okay, that looks pretty good. Maybe I should be checking this one out. And then I do a little bit of research. And I'm like, no. And again, these might be super fucking successful. It's very, very possible. Very, very possible that they're very, very successful, but it's just not my game. And when I start to think about it, I'm like, okay, I know what my game is. I know what I'm good at. If I do something else, then I'm not playing my game, and I'm probably not gonna have great results. So yeah, let me turn on the fan here. It's pretty hot, actually. There we go. Anyways, yeah. Yeah, and that's the issue. It's like how do you decide especially the exit? It can be very, very difficult. But in general, for new shit coins, what has worked, if I could just observe something that's worked, it would be looking at the daily trend. Just looking at higher highs and higher lows. Is it still an uptrend or is it in a downtrend? If it's in a downtrend, you're probably done for a very long time, if not maybe for forever. So yeah. All right. Let's see. A few more sips of this. Mr. Van Duysen, good morning, Lurts. I feel like I should ask this in black speech, but let's keep it so. You fucking bastard. How dare you? Ever considered doing some Let's Play videos on some games? Actually, I used to have a pretty active presence on Twitch. And I'd be doing a lot of gaming when I wasn't when I was trading, to be honest. But when I was a little bit more involved in social medias, honestly, I probably will bring it back at some point. But I'm waiting for the right conditions for something like that. And yeah, it's like I want to get a better balance between my screen time and my fucking outside time, to be honest. So yeah. I'd love to play some Kingdom Come Deliverance or Total War. Yeah, man, it is pretty fun, honestly, and it actually used to be quite popular, and I really enjoyed doing it. So we'll bring it back at some point for sure. But like I said, I need the right conditions for that, and it'll be coming up soon. I can assure you of that. It really will. Certainly less than a year. Probably less than 6 months. Samuel Johnson says penned. Do you mean Pendle? Maybe he means Pendle. I don't know. Maybe he means penned. Pendulum. Maybe it's this. Really bad. Nothing bullish about this thing at all whatsoever. The best that you can do here is one of these one-off pumps that never gets any continuation. So yeah, it's a hard game to play. Every once in a while it happens, but downside is always the bet for the long term on something like this. Love Woods, what's up, man? Thanks, brother. Okay, SPY futures 4 hour time frame. Yeah, let's do it. I have it right here and have it right here. Well, before we get into the 4 hour, I should acknowledge that the daily time frame is actually in a bit of a early portion of this breakdown. It's already hit the 21 EMA, getting its first bounce from there. Maybe it bounces a little bit more to open up this week, but I do think that this is going to be a corrective week probably for traditional markets, as is Bitcoin. Maybe this thing at some point this coming week, it comes down to like 58, 70, 58, 90, something like that. Somewhere in that pocket there should bounce as well. Higher term timeframes, weekly time frame. I know you didn't ask for it, but there's really been no pullback and consolidation for any meaningful period of time, and certainly no meaningful higher low put in on this trend just yet. So, is it going to come from here? I mean, this would be another chance for it to do that, because if it does trade below the low of last week, which is 59.27, which I think is definitely possible this week, I think you're in for one of those corrective phases, and yeah, it probably does come down and probably tries for a higher low somewhere around one of these major moving averages. But if you're just looking at the 4 hour time frame, if I had to call it here, man, maybe it opens up the week on a slight bounce back up to 6,000, but I do think that it comes back down after that. Probably at least test last week's low. I think that it probably reaches a little bit lower than that as well. Yeah, not necessarily bearish on this, but I should go over where I'd get extremely fucking bullish though, and that would be the last price action pivot here, 60.51 above there. All right. just get long. Traditional markets can be kind of difficult because you should generally be betting on just general upside, but when you get into lower term time frames, obviously other things do happen. Crypto Muzz says, "Hey, Crown, could you chart silver versus Bitcoin?" Actually, it's definitely possible. Let's do BTC XAG. Whoops, hold on. BTC/XAG. There we go. Okay. Well, Bitcoin's doing quite well versus silver, but in the short term, or really over the past year and a half now, has been in more or less a trading range here. And I do think that it, probably tests a little bit more downside as well, maybe getting closer to this region right here. But at the same time, I think you're going to bounce off a region like this and continue on with the general mega uptrend. But yeah, probably corrected for another month or two. If things get really bad, it'll come down to this yellow line here, but and maybe it does. I mean, shit, you are seeing quarterly momentum very likely going to turn down at the end of this month, but I don't know. Would I be betting on silver versus Bitcoin long term? Probably not, but in the short term / medium term, is it likely to gain versus it? Probably, yeah. Last time I looked at silver, it was looking pretty good. Cloud said, GM Crown Sir, what's up, ma'am? What are some personality traits you see in people who just aren't cut out for trading? I think it's easier to say just the ones that are cut out for trading, like the ones that are good for trading, which is self-reliance, resilience maybe, but self-reliance is a big one, and also self-awareness, because a lot of people, for many people, it's very easy to do like the logical portion of trading where it's like, you know, create a strategy and backtest that strategy and, you know, do these sort of things. But it's execution where people fall apart usually. So that's where these things kind of fall into place, you know. And then the other thing that I see like a lot of people make mistakes with is, you know, finding someone else to blame. You know, you see this all across social media venues. Like it's them, it's they, it's the market makers, it's the fucking internet cabal, it's the Blizzard Shadow Council who's responsible for my losses. Like, no, you just had a bad trade, sir. And maybe that's the reason why. Like, it's always someone else's fault when you lose money, but when you make money, it's because you're a fucking genius. No, it's always your fault. Either which way that things go. So, you know, a healthy amount of responsibility is quite powerful as well. But yeah, as far as like the most obvious things that would not be good personality traits for trading, you can be emotional, but if you act on that emotion, then you're fucked. Then you're going to have no chance. If you're immature, if you don't want to take responsibility, basically all of the opposites of what I stated before, these sort of things will just destroy your fucking account over time. I mean, it's guaranteed. So yeah. Or do you think anyone? I used to say this, that I believe anyone can become a successful trader with enough hard work and dedication. I actually don't believe that anymore. After doing this, after being public for so long and seeing so many people go through the process, there are people that I have met and seen, and no matter they just don't seem to progress. They don't seem to progress. Maybe it's because they don't have self-reflection. Maybe it's because they just don't have the discipline to. That would also be another major trait, by the way. But perhaps they don't have the discipline to, to do things. I think for most people, honestly, here's the thing, man. There are some. Here's the kind of person I'm talking about. There are just some people out there who they love fucking gambling. Like, they really do. And look, it's fine to gamble if you want to gamble. If it's not going to like hurt you financially, fucking go for it, man. But gambling is really, 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 really dumb long term, because you can only lose long term if it's like playing a game where the probabilities are against you. That's like exactly the opposite of what we try to do when we're creating strategies, right? But you're playing a game where the probabilities are against you. So quite literally, the more that you play, the more that you will lose. So even if you have a little bit of wins here and there, if you draw that out and you don't quit, and assuming that the wins happen early, then you will be a loser over time. It's just numbers, just math. Like, it's going to fucking happen. And I've been watching a lot of these. I don't know why I get obsessed with these, but recently I got obsessed with like watching these YouTube hater videos where like they do like exposés and shit. It's probably cancerous to watch, to be honest, but they cover these like internet influencers, I guess. And one of the recent topics was gamblers, and there's just like some guys who are fucking hopeless. Like, they just will not stop. They won't stop because it's ingrained in them in some way that they like gambling is just the only way for them, and they just literally cannot stop. They go and go and go and go, and that's exactly the issue with gambling, is that the more that you go, the more that you will lose over time. Yeah, you might have a few wins here and there, but it will not hold up over time. Like, I can't stress this enough. If you're playing a game where you have a 51% probability to lose versus a 49% probability to win, you're going to win a lot, but you're going to overall lose. It's just how it fucking works. So yeah, there are people like that, and I've come across people like this, and for these people, it is nearly impossible. Like, their brain is just, it's like a drug that they're addicted to that they cannot fucking kick. It really is like that, and I'm sorry to say it, but it is. So yeah, I've changed my views on that a lot over time because, well, just new evidence. So yeah, fair enough. There's a nice positive measure for the day. You're fucked. Kidding. Coca Cayenne Cola says, "Hey, Crown, just want to say a huge thanks for answering my question last week. Really, all good, man. Thank you. I appreciate that nice positive message." Fibonacci says, "Hey, Crown and Elsa, as you know, trading psychology is very important in this because it can make or break you." Yeah. R.I.P. Mark Douglas, my fucking man. How do you measure your own trading success besides P&L? That's the only way I measure it. Are you journaling and looking at things like sticking to your trading plan, a successful trade? This is what I used to do when I was, I did it for a long time, but when I was really like in the thick of transitioning from the learning phase to the execution phase. So yeah, it was certainly useful to do that during that time. But now I just judge it by the P&L, because once you've kind of ingrained and redirected your emotions to be aligned with that of, someone who could have the emotional state that would be a successful trader, well, there's not much else to do there. You just need to maintain. And the way that you maintain that is by doing. So yeah. Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, because right here is the exact answer. The realization that you come to over time is a very boring realization. If it's all probabilistic, then whether I win or lose this current trade that I'm in doesn't really mean much. Like, if I win it, should I get excited? No. If I lose it, should I get sad? No. Like, I know I'm going to lose some. I know I'm going to gain some. It's just what it adds up to over time. So yeah. Gay for TA. Fuck yeah, man. Sugar Booger, NQ, 4 hour and daily. I think we went over that earlier. So we are we went over ES, but it's going to be more or less the same, to be honest. Maybe a little bit stronger than ES, I guess. No, it's about the same. It really is the same chart, honestly, man. Look, as long as you're above this most recent price action pivot here, maybe it bounces a little bit more. Maybe it opens up the week on a bounce like 21.7, 21.8 region. But I do think that you're in for a bit of a corrective period here. If it comes down to 2850 to 2650, like, that's fine. Again, weekly looks to me like it wants to correct a bit after having a pretty epic run. Only bullish if it pops back up above last Thursday's high at 21,977. Until then, I would just kind of be following this over here. All right, more water from me. Jim Bob says, "Hey, Crown, could we use the price action pivots in the skeleton key to trade swing failure patterns on a basis that Bitcoin deviates outside the pivot and then closes 2 1-hour candles back inside the range?" I think you'd be able to set that up, yeah. We also have another indicator that you could use that comes with Quant Prime that you could use, which is the trend wave, or the trend wave catalyst, I should say. So yeah, one of those you should be able to set up the logic with that. It makes sense in my head. I'm trying to think of reasons why you wouldn't be able to do that, but I think it should be able to be done. If you're not already in the Quant Prime service, try it. Just get the free 7 days. Come into the Discord. We'll help you out. We'll show you how to set it up and figure it out from there. Let me see if you are in there. You are in there. Yeah. So ask in the chat about the oh my god. The trend wave catalyst, yes, and then the price action pivots. I think that this would be possible, yes, but you need to really, really explain the very significant details into exactly how you're going to enter it, and then we can maybe come up with how that would look like on the skeleton key. Chev says, "GM sir, core weave 4 hour and daily." All right, core weave. Okay, 4 hour time frame, very new chart, but is consolidating within here. If it does close below 142.42, that is a breakdown, and I'd be looking for this thing to put in a move 131, 132 region at least. Daily time frame, I think it probably is breaking down. I think it will come down to 132, maybe even all the way down to 125. Probably tries for a bounce among one of those regions there. And you actually do have a rising channel breakdown here. Let's see if this one plays out. It did break down over here, and that one's pointed towards 132. We shall see. Time shall tell. Nuke the Black Q says, "GM, stay humble and stack sats." I like it. Mr. Crown, on the subject of hardware wallets, please look into Cold Card Q by CoinKite. Actually, that one's come up on my list so many times, man. It really seems like it is the best option for neurotic anxious people like myself. This is an aggressively air-gapped Bitcoin-only device. A hardware wallet that is compatible with shitcoin brings all of the shitcoin security flaws to the device. This was a major contributing factor in the recent Bybit hack. Oh, really? Okay. Because their wallets could not display hacked shitcoin smart contracts in a human-readable format. Pair a cold card with Sparrow Wallet on the desktop or Nunchuck on your phone. Don't be like Sailor who stores his coins on Coinbase. Yeah, I mean, that really could happen. I mean, that's probably the biggest point of failure. Also on a tangent, by the way, thank you for that information. Like I said, it has come up a lot of times, but it is good for me to, continue to immerse myself in it because, I don't know, I'm just so fucking... I'm like, okay, is this right? Is this right? I'm like the fucking noob when it comes to that. Also, on a tangent, did you know that your sex withdrawals through a trusted Bitcoin node is the only way to check if you're being sold counterfeit Bitcoin? Perhaps we have not seen. That is a very interesting and random thing that I came across very, very recently. So it's funny that you mentioned this, but yeah, I actually did just learn this. I think it was like a couple days ago. Which is pretty crazy. I mean, like, I guess, I mean, it is possible. I don't know if we're going to like into super neurotic territory, but, but I would hope it's okay. But yeah, man, it's probably time to start running my own node. Tobo, thanks, man. I will indeed hydrate. Okay. Let's do a few more. We're only halfway through these chats here. Quinn German says, GM Crown, listen to your videos every morning on my way to work. Hell yeah, man. Loving the skeleton key. Could you look at CRSP stock on the long term? CRSP is CRISPR. It's cool. Cool company. Is it actually a good chart? I don't know. Probably. Well, it is already bouncing here, I guess. But anyways, for some context, I've bought and held all three lows. Haven't sold on any pumps. Just recently dipped below my average entry, but currently in slight profit. Honestly, this is a bet on the potential. Yeah, I mean, you're playing a long-term investment game, so I think in your case, I mean, look, if I'm looking at this as a chart, I think it's a breakdown. I think it's going to come lower. But if you're looking at this as like a multi-year long investment play, look, weird things can happen for sure, and maybe this one does salvage itself. Like, definitely possible, because I do understand that this one it's basically a biotech, and biotechs can move like that. But if I'm looking at the quarterly here, I mean, this is a breakdown, and well, I mean, it has retraced a good amount of this move already. Let's see how much it is from the high. And whether it comes down like another, well, could easily come down like another $10, which would be 30%. Whether it does that or not, I don't think it has that much lower to go. But the problem is that when you hit a low from a move like this, it doesn't mean that it just immediately bounces back up to the highs. No, it's going to stay down there for probably like multiple years. Unless you get one of those crazy announcements or something. But yeah, that's a different game. Levels where I'd become bullish, that's a much easier question to answer. Your most obvious one here on the quarterly, where this one becomes mega bullish, is above 91.25, has more than a 2x to go from right now. On a monthly, last price action pivot is 59.25. I actually don't think that this one matters as much, or it certainly doesn't matter as much, but I don't think that one's going to be a good one to go off of, because like, maybe I'm being a little bit too biased towards this one because I'm usually looking at crypto shitcoins, but this is a pretty nasty downtrend, man. It's a pretty nasty downtrend. I would honestly be waiting for this one. That's where this one becomes obviously bullish, and you're probably just looking at new all-time highs from there, or at least a retest of like 170, 175. So yeah, I think it's just going to take some time. Like, if you're playing the long game, you got to play the long game, and you're playing a game of hope based off of, I'm guessing, just the excitement of that technology. I kind of I can definitely understand that. I don't know if it's going to be a good investment. As far as charts go, it's not great, I'll tell you that. BT Storm says, GM Cancer, could you please take a look at INJ on the weekly and monthly? INJ on the weekly and the derply. Yes. Down and down. Yeah, man. Weekly, in the process of putting in its next lower high. I don't think it's going to necessarily make like significantly new lows from here, but does it come back down to at least like $9.50? Probably yes. Does it come down further to $7 and retest this low from April? Definitely possible. Pretty nasty downtrend, heavily bearish as long as you're below the May highs. If you can reclaim the May highs, I think that this thing could go on for a pretty nice run, but keep in mind, man, this is a very nasty downtrend here that has been down only since March of 2024. So while the rest of the market was rallying to the moon and beyond, this thing could not make a new high with it, not even close. So it's not a good sign, man. You're going to have your bounces along the way, of course. So, you know, pray for bounces within this region right here and pray that it brings you back above 15.5 or so. If that happens, I think there is a chance, there is potential, but until that happens, continuation of trends since the past year plus is most likely. And then Michael Bolden asked a question about quantum wavebands equity. You answered this question on last week's stream to have 20 to 30,000 before using Quant Prime. I think that that's like a healthy area for someone. Do I feel the same about quantum wavebands? I mean, honestly, yes. Like, look, you can try. Quantum wavebands are made for more beginner style people, so it is pretty much done for you right out of the gate. But you know, you can apply your own spin to it as well. But anyways, my point is that you need to be able to survive a bad month, because bad months will happen. Even if overall over a 12-month period, it's positive net gains. If you have a bad month and you're just starting out and you're oversizing, you can get into trouble really fucking quick. And that's what I think, unfortunately, some people do. So despite all of our warnings and everything, it's like, look, you can't just fucking go 100x on your first trade like this. You should never do that anyways, obviously. But, you know, if you treat it as if you want to be able to survive a 10% move against you at any given time and make sure that that does not destroy your equity to the point where you can no longer put on trades. If you can calculate that amount, then it's whatever that amount is. But I'd say that's the minimum. Because yeah, those moves certainly don't happen often, maybe like once a year, a couple times a year type thing. But if it does happen to you, what are you going to do? You know, you just went all in. Are you going to try your luck that way? I don't think that's smart. ETGA says, morning, sir. Thank you for your daily commitment. It's the daily rituals, OCD at its finest. Following since the Ben Cowan collab. Man, I wonder what happened with that guy. I feel like we had a good chat. I feel like I had a good appearance on his channel. I mean, I called the fucking $15,500 low on Bitcoin like multiple months before it happened on his channel. But I don't know. He just doesn't like me or some shit, man, because he unfollowed me on Twitter after that. And I don't know, man, whatever. Anyways, what's your take on Mara on the weekly? Let's check it out. Mara. Probably not good, honestly. Being that it is a Bitcoin miner, these things are notoriously bad. And yeah, it's been around for multiple cycles now, and it's only done worse and worse and worse. That's not a good sign, in my opinion. I think it's a bad sign. I think it's a very bad sign. But does it come back down to like $6.50 in base there and then try another rally? Maybe yes, but look, like, you're not doing yourself any favors, in my opinion, by holding an asset like this if you want exposure to the crypto world. Just my 2 cents, man. But yeah, I even think that this is like your next lower high right here before it gets ready to pop back down to like $10 or close to $10 maybe. Again, that can take some time, obviously, but yeah, not great. Nola says, Lord Crown, Master of Momentum and Slayer of Hopium, may I humbly request thine royal opinion on the sacred charts of Solana? Actually, I do think that range around 130, give or take a few bucks from that number, is fine. I think you're at least going to see a bounce there. Is it going to be the long-term crusade, as you say? I mean, you have to bet on like a Bitcoin mega bull market from that point for Solana to make new highs from there. In my opinion, I think what's most likely for Solana is my LARP line's kind of gave it away, but you come down somewhere around there, you bounce something in this fashion, and maybe it gets back to like 220, 230-ish region, maybe even 250, but I don't think you're making new highs this cycle, to be honest with you. Yeah. But I do like that area for at least like a pretty nice bounce. Probably even try for a little bit of a bounce first as well. Definitely not impossible from here. But yeah, following in this long-term downside channel. So as long as you're living below there, there's nothing excited to get about for any sort of real upside. And the longer that it follows it, the more and more that the implied target to the upside, if it does break to the upside, is going to be a lower price. So yeah. Gets worse the longer it stays in there, basically. Yash says, hey, Crown, can you explain why you prefer your stochastic RSI setting over the standard ones? Well, first off, I don't use stochastic RSI because it's the most garbage indicator possible on TradingView, sir. I do use the stochastic oscillator, which is this thing right here. And can I explain why I use the settings over the standard ones? Because they work better. That's the answer to anything settings related, sir. Always comes down to the efficacy of it. There's no like magic formula or anything like that. It's just try different inputs, see what works. Yeah, a lot of trial and error. Texas Sig Ep 13 says, hola, Sir Crown. What's up, man? Do you keep up with any shitcoin news like developments on Ethereum? No, I don't, except for just stuff that I hear through the grapevine because, you know, I'm exposed on Twitter. But yeah, I'm not interested in shitcoins. I'm not interested in really anything outside of Bitcoin. I'm not interested in, you know, holding these things. I don't care. It's not my game. Can you make money on that? Sure, yes, but that's not going to be me, so that's fine. It's not my game. It's just not where my edge is. Simply Red says, hope recovery speedy. Thank you. Thank you. I'm the dearest retard indeed. Zig daily and weekly price action pivots, HPDR bands for feeling extra horny. I'm going to guess there's probably not even enough information on something like this to do a good representation on the HPDR bands. I actually do have a good amount of information here, but certainly not for the higher term timeframes from only 2022 that I can tell you. But yeah. And also I don't want to bring it up on my charts right now, but yeah, as far as this one goes, look, long-term, absolute fucking garbage in my opinion. Okay. I spoke too soon there. Maybe not absolute fucking garbage, but it's not necessarily proven itself just yet. It's only been around for one cycle, but it's been doing what you want to see for one of the better shitcoins from cycle to cycle, I guess, or from the current cycle. But then again, it did not make new highs recently with Bitcoin. It's actually nowhere near the prior highs. If I had to call it, I think that it comes back down to this base here, 7 cents or so. Probably tries for a bounce there, but if it breaks below 7 cents, this thing's gonna get sent to fucking Hades. That's the monthly. 5-day, yeah, nothing hard to get excited about this thing as long as you're below this high at 11.40 cents. Above there, yeah, this thing can run towards 14, 15, maybe make new highs, but I'm very much more inclined to say that this thing's probably done for a very long time with a drop off like this. Might get a bounce like Solana is, like I said, but I don't think it's gonna continue to materialize into anything of, you know, significant interest, to be honest. All right, almost to the hour mark here, and I'm almost out of water. Oh, we got some Forex, nice. CAD dollar. Let's see. Canadian dollar versus the real dollar. But right now the Canadian dollar should be winning a bit. Yeah, I think that this one continues with a rally at least to the 55, which is 74.25. Does it actually break above there and put in like a real breakout? It is possible with the way that the dollar is moving, but I'd at least be looking for that move first and probably a pullback from there. If you see it actually start to close above, let's call it 74.5 on a monthly time frame, then I could extend that target all the way up to 78 cents, somewhere around here. But one thing before the next, obviously. So yeah, basically somewhere in this pocket here, I would imagine the next few months, with stops along the way, of course, too. Kincaid says, hey, Crown, since Hype has been the best performing new coin of this cycle, has flipped Sui and market cap, dwarfs it in TVL, would you think about dropping Sui for Hype? Well, probably not Sui because that one's still pretty popular, so like people like to look at it, but maybe drop like Solana for Hype. Could do that. The problem with Hype is that there's just like not so much long-term history, so it's hard to kind of look at it from, you know, cycle to cycle because it doesn't exist, but neither does Sui, to be fair. So anyways, yeah, maybe I swap out Solana. Like, people don't really seem to care about Solana anymore. Mr. Barash says hello. What's up, ma'am? Deval says, hello, Crown. Can you take a look at RIVN weekly and monthly? RIVN. Okay, RIVN. I'm guessing it's this thing. Definitely don't like it, sir. Very, very bad. Downtrend for its whole life since 2021. All higher term timeframes bearish. This one just had a rejection right here. That's probably your next lower high. Rejected right at the descending trend line extension for the price action pivots. I think that this thing is just generally headed down back below $11. I don't know how long it takes. It could take many months, but yeah, bad chart. Good person. Bad chart though. Hamza says, hey Crown, could you check out Ethereum on a daily and weekly? Sure. Let's see. We got ETH Derp here. Well, yeah, again, and in the short term, I do think that it tries a little bit lower here, maybe closer to 2,400, but I wouldn't call it a breakdown until it actually closes below 2,380. Below there, things actually do change around for me. I do think that this thing could see like a sizable pullback from there to the low 2,000s. But the same token to the upside, you got 2,900 price action pivot right here for the weekly. Above there, this thing should explode towards deep 3,000s. But knowing Ethereum loves to fail at every chance that is given. So I don't really know. The muzzlefucker says, dear sir and sir, why did you look like you recently had a boxing match with Queen Elsa? It's just, she has got really, very strong hands, man. She doesn't look like it, but she got very quick hands. Much gratitude for showing some balls and showing your face. Yeah, man, I mean, what am I going to do? Like, I do my fucking videos every day. Would you consider asking the AI to make some images of you as an orc? Actually, that would be a pretty cool idea. Maybe I will try that. That could be some good clickbait content. Check out my new sex change. I'm an orc now. SE high on the 2-day and 8-day. Well, I don't have an 8-day on my chart, so I'm probably not going to go there, but I think the weekly will probably give us the same information. Well, weekly down, so that much is obvious. Momentum is about to freshly turn down alongside what looks to be another lower high below 22 cents. Yeah, this is just a thing that only goes down basically anyways. Just lower highs on every pump. Didn't even get up to my prospective lower high right here. Rejected lower than there. I think that this thing comes back down to your April lows. Maybe it makes a slightly new low, but should be bouncing somewhere between like 13 cents and, well, things get really bad, like maybe 7 or 8 cents, but somewhere around these areas. Overall, very, very bad. Again, you're just playing the game here of when does the next pump that is going to fail come in, and that's a difficult game. Yeah. All right. Prince 11 says, have a psychology question. All right, maybe we end on this one. We're 1 hour in now. Okay, have a psychology question. And if you have experienced both these scenarios, especially the second, what is more painful from an investor's perspective, not a trader? Okay, investing in something and losing all your money and making it worthless. Okay, it's pretty painful. Waiting to invest at the bottom and not getting it on time, and the move goes parabolic without you. Oh, of course, the first one's much more painful, man. Like if you blow all your fucking equity, like you have a real problem. In the second scenario, you have a problem that you can fix and you still have equity to execute with after reassessing. So of course, number one is going to be much more painful, whether you're a trader or an investor. Yeah, that's going to be logically worse, and I would imagine emotionally worse as well. Yeah, I mean, at that point, like you have nothing to do anything with anymore, man. All right, last one. Spoon says, hello, Buttcoin enjoyer. Oh, that's me. It's Steve. Dude, yeah. Have been missing the streams recently. All good, man. But still lurking your channel regularly. Fuck yeah, dude. This may seem like a totally redacted question, but when it comes to calling a close on the time frames between, say, 4 hour and the daily, do you have a preference on the time zone for it? Doesn't matter. Okay, don't feel bad because this is a very, very common question, but once you get it, you'll realize it's an absolutely retarded question. So if 00 UTC equates to, I don't know, if it equates to like 3 a.m. in my time zone, or I don't know, like 10 p.m. in your time zone, it's all the same time. It's all standardized towards 00 UTC. So the time zone is completely irrelevant, actually. So yeah, and I think we'll end it right there. I realized we didn't get to everyone on today's Q&A, but it just is what it is, man. You can jump in on the newest Q&A, or you can join the member section for priority over here on YouTube, and we shall pick up again next week. But before that, we'll hopefully see you tomorrow. And with that said, take care and much love.